Hey, welcome. Enjoying your blended family on a Monday episode. Today, we are talking about a healthy marriage. What makes a healthy marriage?
Probably like a lot of sit-ups.
A lot of sit-ups make a healthy marriage.
In a blended family.
You know, it actually makes a healthy body, but I don't know if it really helps your marriage as much. Now, there might be some side benefits maybe from that, but, I think there's a little bit more to it. So maybe we can share some of those things here in just a minute.
So we're talking about what makes a healthy marriage in a blended family. So what do you say makes a healthy marriage in a blended family if it's not sit-ups?
If it's not abs? Ooh, that's a tough one. Really, that was my answer. And since we can't use that one, I don't know.
They're called love handles for a reason.
They are. That is true. But I don't think that really helps your marriage, whether you do or don't. I think that's all based on kind of personal opinion, personal preference, appearance, and stuff like that. So, and that looks different to everybody. But there are 3 things that we can share that actually do help make a healthy marriage in a blended family. Would you like to hear them?
Shoot, tell me.
Okay, well, number one is healthy communication. Healthy communication. You got to have healthy communication. And you got to throw the healthy part into it, because if you just say communication, that could be like bad communication,
screaming at each other.
Yeah, it could be like a lot. So it's got to be healthy communication. That's number 1. Number 2 is quality time together. That is a big, important aspect to a healthy marriage. Having a healthy marriage, especially in a blended family, we need that quality time. And then the third thing is prayer. Being able to pray together and keeping God in the center of your marriage. So those are kind of the 3 things, but we could leave it there, or we could take them deep.
We could break it down.
I think we could break it down. If you saw her dance on that one, that was good. So I was like, yeah, she's.
That's my signature move. Break it down.
Break it down. Oh.
But I would agree with you that all 3 of those things. I'm sure there's a lot of different things that you could say what makes a healthy marriage, but for the sake of time is putting in these 3 that I would agree are the top.
Yeah, these are 3 that not only have we seen really help our marriage and help keep us together and stronger in our blended family, but we've seen it over and over in other couples. We've read about them. We've heard talks about them. So these are now, as you're saying, there's we could probably nitpick and just say, well, what about this? What about this? But these are just 3 crucial big things. Like if you can at least work on these 3 things, then your marriage is really going to take off. Your marriage is going to really be strong. And that's what we need in blended families, because we have a lot of things coming at us that can cause division. And so we need more things to put into our marriage to create unity and connection.
Yeah, and I feel like these 3 things are things that we see and hear and experience ourselves that lack. And it's like, should be common sense or should be easy. The solutions even sound easy sometimes, but we just miss the mark out of just busyness of life, or bringing in old stuff from our previous marriage in there, or just lack of discipline or the know-how. So.
Don't think I thought about any of this whenever we got married. It's just one of those things I think for many of us, we don't think about. We're just in love and we get married, and then we have a lot of stuff that hits us, and it's like, what the crap? I don't understand. So it is taking that intentionality on learning a lot of these things, and that's what's excelled us, is just by grabbing this knowledge and applying it, not just hearing it, but doing it, right? There's action in doing. But let's talk about communication first, healthy communication. We can break that down in a marriage in many, many different ways, but we're just going to kind of give some of the high points that we know of that are really beneficial for a blended family. And the first under healthy communication would be parenting, being able to parent together. And that is a challenge within itself
Yeah.
No matter how long you've been married, it's that constantly talking together about how are we going to parent our kids. We know, every dynamic looks different. For us, we had, she brought kids into the marriage and I brought kids into the marriage. And so it's really trying to figure out how do we navigate us parenting our kids and parenting our stepkids, our bonus kids. What does that look like? Because if we don't talk about it, if we don't have a game plan, it can lead to a lot of arguments and a lot of resentment. So it needs to be a thing that you discuss before the problems really start occurring, or being able to, as the problems come up, being able to step back from them and realize not everything's an emergency, as we tend to do as parents. We, when anytime a child brings something or does something, we think, oh, it's got to be resolved right then and there, when 9 times out of 10, it's not that big of an emergency to where we can't say, you know what, I'm really upset right now. I'm going to take some time to think about this. Now you've got a saying, you've got something that you can say to where now you can step back, you and your spouse can talk about it that evening and come up with a game plan to toss some ideas back and forth.
Yeah.
I know we have, through our parenting, have seen that work the best with parenting our kids. Is not just, there's been so many moments that I've wanted to act out or I have acted out just on a whim. Or
that was kind of you to take one for the team, because that was more my MO.
Well, I mean, I had my faults there as well, and we both had that in our marriage, to where we would have something come at us, some challenge, some blended family challenge with our kids, and we would just react to it in that moment instead of stepping back and just biting our tongue or saying, we'll talk about this later. And whenever we started doing more of that, and then coming and talking and saying, hey, this is what happened, this is really what I want to do. I really want to take a club, and I really want to, go about it this way. And then the other one talks you off the ledge, and then it's like, okay, yeah, oh, your way sounds better. Oh, really talking and working through it. Okay, I guess, the other way sounds better, but
and
we'll
usually
do it this
just
way.
The amount of time that it takes for you to come together and talk, you've cooled down and you're not as emotionally driven in that situation as if when you act on that moment right there. So.
Yeah. And we always say, and we say that because we've heard it and we've seen the benefits in our family, and we've heard it from so many other teachers on blended families, but the one giving the discipline should be the biological parent. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that the biological parent and the bonus parent are not behind the scenes talking and working up a game plan. When you do that, you are talking and you are working together on it, but the biological parent's the one presenting it, that's when you're going to see the best benefits. But that takes talking, healthy communication, and working through situations.
And I think that's a key that a lot of people miss, because they hear, let the biological parent do it. So they take that initiative and they miss out on the point where you come together and you talk about it and you're still a team in there.
Yeah, because you are definitely stronger together than you are apart.
And yeah, communication, like healthy communication, isn't just about like the hard stuff and the difficult stuff and the problems too. It's your day-to-day life. Like, you married this person, you love them, and you want to be with them. That's why you're together. But the busyness of life and stressors and all of that can come as a wedge in between there. But just spending that time every day, we suggest like at least 15 minutes. We call it couch time. You don't have to sit on a couch, where you come together and you're just sharing your day-to-day life stuff, either what happened during your day, stories that took place that were funny or frustrated you, or whatever that's going on in your life. Because usually you spend like 8 hours away from your spouse. Yeah. And then if you have kids' activities and all that on top of it, you don't get that much time with them. So there's a lot of catching up to do in the evening, and to be able to look forward to that. Like, that's your best friend that you get to come and conversate and tell them what's going on. And then just like what's coming up in the future too. It's a great time, and to make sure that you're communicating. I know we went through seasons of lacking that, where I knew something was coming up and I forgot to tell him about it. And then he runs into somebody and they're like, well, didn't Scarlett tell you? And he's like,
nope. group.
We live together, but
we have this thing where we don't really talk a lot. And it would. But what that does is it causes frustration because we don't know what's going on with each other. We hadn't talked, we hadn't connected, and you're doing things your way, I'm doing things my way, and we never come together. So we become those strangers just passing in the hallway of our home. And that's the last thing we want, because that will drive a wedge in your marriage. Yeah. So it is being able to take daily. And we got that couch time from an old school course that a marriage class we took like many moons ago. And that's one thing that they had said, you got to have that daily time to where you're just sitting there. And they had even said in that what you're doing is you're modeling what marriage looks like in front of your kids, that you are interested in hearing from your spouse. Y'all are taking time for each other. And that shows your kids that you love each other. That shows your kids that we're connected. And when they see that, they feel safe. And they feel that the boat's not rocking. So it really is. It gives your kids another way to watch and gives you another way to model. So that is, just sharing your day-to-day life, making sure you are taking time, 10, 15 minutes a day, just connecting, saying, hey, how's your day? And so often we get so busy, we miss doing that. So the next thing under healthy communications is feelings, is really just being able to share your feelings and kind of what's going on with you. There's a lot of times when, it took us a while to learn this, but whenever one of us gets just really upset or something's really bothering us, a lot of times we can do it one of two ways. We either, if you're that type of person, you'll hold it in and you'll let it eat away at you. And it's just eating and eating, but it's also on your face. It's also in your mood that people can tell. Or you're the type to where you act on your feelings and you let everybody know that you're not having a good day. And, so it can go both ways, but really learn, like me, I'm a suppressor. I will hold my feelings in. And I've learned for myself that whenever, even though, my feelings are legit, right? We all have feelings. We all have bad days. We all have things like that. But whenever I can communicate that to my spouse, whenever I can communicate that to Scarlett and be like, listen, honey, it's nothing against you right now. I just want you to know that. This situation made me feel this way, and I'm really trying to deal with that. I'm trying to, and for us, we always try to allow God to work on us, and we try to go to prayer and just have some quiet time with him, being like, hey, help me through this, because I don't know. But just being able to communicate that to your spouse is healthy, because now they know, okay, I didn't do anything wrong, but they're going through this, and I'm going to support them. Is there anything I can do for you? Is there anything that I can help? What do you need? And so that really opens up that healthy communication to where now we're not hiding things from each other, but we're allowing actually these feelings to help bring us closer.
Yeah, and just for it being healthy communication, just such a reminder, especially for blended families, because we both came from high conflict previous relationships where everything was a fight. That's just how we communicated with each other. So we thought when we came together, the fact that we did not fight was a healthy communication, but really we were both suppressing the way we felt about things and brushing things under the rug. You're like, well, it's fine. I'll just deal with it. It'll be okay. And it can be okay for a little while, but eventually, and Randall uses this in other illustrations, but it's like that soda bottle and you're just shaking it up and shaking it up. Eventually it's going to explode. And that's what we would see, is that if you push your feelings to the side and act like they're not valid long enough, then that resentment comes in and it becomes an issue in between your marriage. And you don't want that. So you do want to be able to express those things. Just because you're silent doesn't mean you're healthy communication.
Yeah, for sure. So that was number 3 under healthy communication. We got 2 more. Is the second to last is compromise. Being able to compromise. And if you're married, you know all too well that a good marriage will not last without compromise. Mm-hmm. If I go at it to where I'm just saying, I don't care about what you say, I'm doing my thing, then I've doomed our relationship. I've just already set it on fire by doing that. We've got to, marriage is a compromise, and, kind of going back to the Bible, I'm supposed to sacrifice myself for my wife. I'm supposed to, be willing to die for her. And so it's like, I want to put me down and build her up. But the flip script on that is she's doing the same for me. So, we're both sacrificing to each other. And when we do that, that's when we're really connecting. That's when we're healthy, because now, even though I'm willing to sacrifice my desires and things for her, she's trying to give me my desires and things. So we are becoming one. We are connecting on that level instead of trying to keep it separate and say, I'm going to do my thing, you do your thing. Then we're just two different people. Why are we even married?
I think that blended family, there's a lot of couples in blended families that do this well, though, because you have experienced the other way before. You've seen what that does to your marriage and how it drives that wedge and ends in divorce. So a lot of my friends that have, like when I'm in a group setting and it's half of my friends have been divorced and the other half are still married in their first marriage, the things that they're not willing to compromise on is funny to hear. And then those that have been married and now in their second marriage, it's like, those things don't really matter. You just let it go in those situations, because you see the devastation of when you're not willing to compromise.
Yeah, and I think that just comes with time and age too, that the older you get, the wiser you get on some of those. So, those are just some of the early pitfalls, but it even happens at later stages. We see that in many different marriages, to where some people just are not willing to compromise. But those are just, if you want to have a healthy marriage and healthy communication, you got to be able to talk things out and reach a mutual agreement. But the thing is bringing it to the table, whatever the thing is, the problem, the issue, what's going on, saying, hey, honey, can we talk? And not pointing the finger at them, saying, when you do this, then I feel this way. You want to do it the opposite. You always start out with I feel this way when this situation occurs. You want to not point blame at the other person, because whenever you do that, our human nature is to get on boxing gloves and go on defense. And that's the last. Now we've ended conversation, because there's nothing you can say that they will hear. They're in fighting mode because we put them in fighting mode. And so that challenge is, being able to sit there and take it off of them and take responsibility for us and our feelings, and just saying, I feel this way when, I'm not feeling heard. Like, and I feel like I'm not being heard sometimes, because, and maybe being able just to lay out a few things and really just opening up a line of communication. Most of the time, the other spouse is like, oh, I didn't know you felt that way. Oh, and I'm the cause of some of that, Oh man, I don't want to hurt you like that, and so it really it's putting you both on the same page, and then working through the problem, working through the challenge.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then the last one under healthy communication, earmuffs.
Earmuffs.
If you have any.
If you have little ears, then maybe pause it, put the earplugs in, or just say earmuffs.
And then come back to it later. But is sex, and we're not talking about having sex as a healthy marriage, even though that is.
Usually,
it's a good thing, but we're talking about talking about it.
That could actually been the fourth number to have a healthy marriage, have a lot of sex. So we should have, that should be in there too. So that's a little bonus. That's a bonus one. Have a lot of sex.
But talking about it, this is something and especially in the Christian culture, it's like you just don't talk about it because sex seems like a bad word. And I talk to so many people, and they're like, even when I first started talking about it in Prayers from a Mom, we would have a week where we were talking about marriage and relationship, intimacy and stuff. And every time I went to say sex, I would whisper it. And I was like, I'm in a room by myself. Why am I whispering this? But it's just getting it out there and having a conversation, because what is a healthy amount for you, or what that looks like for you, that's in your marriage. I mean, there are things that are wiser for you to do in the sex boundaries for your marriage, but coming together and being able to talk about it. We didn't never really do this until we took like a little challenge a while back, and it started opening up these like questions of, hey, B-Fam, we'll be back in just a minute. Check this out.
So Scarlett, what's your favorite thing about summer?
If I had to pick just one thing, I'd say having fun with my family. I feel like summer is the easiest time to go on new adventures. We laugh more together, create more memories, stuff like that. What about you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Me too. I love the beach, family hangouts, barbecuing outside. I can smell it. Hanging out by the pool. It's crazy because it always seems that everyone gets along so much better when we're doing things we all like doing.
I agree. That's exactly why we created Enjoy the Journey.
For sure. We found out that having fun together as a family gives you that joy-filled home that brings healing and keeps your family healthy, both mentally and physically. Then we lean on what God says in Proverbs 17:22, that a joyful, cheerful heart brings healing to both body and soul. But the one whose heart is crushed struggles with sickness and depression. We found that when our family is having more fun together, all the blended family challenges weren't near as bad. Our family becomes stronger, healthier. So we try to create more of those opportunities, which led us to create Enjoy the Journey. This is a new way that guides your family through finding more things your family enjoys doing together.
It really does. And it's so easy to do. I think the great thing about it is that it helps you find more family things that you like doing, but it also guides you through finding more fun things for your marriage, more fun things for each one of your kids, and it's especially helpful for the step-parent relationships. It really shows you that the more fun you have, the less problems you'll see.
It walks your family through finding more things you like doing in a fun way, and it sets you up to walk away with a great plan that your family will love. So no matter how long you've been a blended family, this meets you where you're at. It really is a fun journey that your family will be so glad you went on. So check it out. The link is in the show notes, and let your family enjoy the journey today. Now back to this episode. Yeah, it's more of opening up just that communication and realizing that as a married couple, you should be talking about this together and coming together and talking about things that you like, or just kind of talking through situations, things you like, things you don't like, things you'd like to try. And that's healthy. That's being able to, now you're not just going at it alone. And I think that's a reason why we see a lot of married couples that aren't having sex. They're not connecting with that intimacy level because they're just not happy with it. They're not happy with the way things are going. And it's like, well, if I'm not happy, why do it? And then before long, you can go weeks, months without having sex, and you start seeing that strain in your marriage. God created sex. He created man and wife to be able to come together and have that intimacy. It's actually healthy for you to do that. There's a point, I'd have to look up the scripture, but it talks about it keeps the enemy away because you're staying connected. That whenever you're apart, whenever you're not connecting intimately like that gives room for the enemy to actually come in and start wedging those thoughts and things and trying to really bait you to where now you're looking outside of your marriage for things.
Yeah, and culture wants to pull you away from your marriage. The enemy wants to pull you away from having sex in your marriage and get you focused on these other things. And there's a lot of unhealthy things around sex that we highly recommend not inviting in to your marriage, but being able to talk and just, it is, even if it takes like a challenge or something like that to get you out of your comfort zone, because there's just things that I never even would have thought. And then when we start talking and asking, what do you like? What do you like? What don't you like? And then we're like, oh, okay. Didn't realize you didn't like that. Or I didn't realize you liked that so much. And to do more of that. And that's just that conversation that you can have. And yes, it's awkward, which we're going to talk about another thing that's awkward here in just a bit, of having a healthy marriage, and that's prayer. But these things are awkward at first until you start doing it more. Yeah,
and it's just something that we're not taught, right? We're not taught to talk about sex. Actually, we're taught at an early age to avoid sex, and you don't have sex before marriage, and you get put in a room with all your schoolmates, and you're watching all these STD videos, and so you're scared to death of it anyway. And then no one ever talks about, now today's times we're watching all these shows to where people are having sex outside of marriage, and it's just they're doing and experimenting. And now,
or even married couples are doing stuff, and then you try it and you're like, that's way harder.
So, there's all different types of things. And then, our culture now with the phones and technology, I mean, there's so much crap out there that is easily getting poured into you to where now you think what it should be, and you're not experiencing that, and you
think something's wrong.
Yeah, you think something's wrong, right? Because we've been pouring in all kinds of crap into our heads, and it's just false information. So really being able to open up that line of communication with your spouse and talking through it. And there's a lot of healthy sex therapists and things out there that offer fun things for couples to do that help not just with sex, but with intimacy, talking, just intimate connections, and being able to start doing that with each other. And shameless plug, Adventure Challenge. We talk a lot about that. You hear us talk about that, but they have a new in bed edition that is just for the couples in that intimacy. So, it really does. It helps add some spice to you and your spouse, new things and new experiences that you get to have together because you're married and you can do that. So, it's.
We could probably talk about sex all day, but we should probably move on to number two.
So those are it. Healthy communication. So you've got to be able to openly talk about parenting, your day-to-day life, your feelings, how you're feeling. You got to be willing to compromise, and you got to talk about sex, baby. You got to.
Knew you were gonna do that one.
There we go. So that's healthy communication. So number 2 is quality time. You've got to have quality time to have a healthy marriage in a blended family, and that can be a challenge.
Yeah, and when we talk about quality time, this looks different, but like one of the main things that we say, especially like how we were saying communication, doing that on a daily basis, finding things that you and your spouse can do on a daily basis together. It might be that y'all come together and sit on the couch for 15 minutes or go sit on the back porch. Randall and I have found that we enjoyed taking a walk around the block together just to kind of switch gears from work to home life. Maybe you help each other cook. It's all kinds of, you wake up and have your coffee together.
Yeah. And it's just being intentional. And that's the key word, right? Is being intentional on this, because if we're not intentional, if we don't plan it, it doesn't happen. And it's so easy for life to happen. We get so busy and we get into our just work mentality or, firefighting mentality that we don't do it. And then we go weeks and months without this happening. And you're like a different person. I don't know what happened to you. I don't know why you changed. And it's like, well, no, we all grow. We're either growing apart or we're growing together. And so spending quality time helps you grow together instead of growing apart. So if you want to have a healthy marriage, you got to spend that daily time. And it's either that couch time, right? You're talking 10, 15 minutes, just how's your day going? Or mixing it up. Maybe one day it's that. Maybe one day it's going for a walk around the block on, a certain day. And maybe it's doing this that you like and then doing that you like. And y'all change it up. It doesn't always have to be the same thing, but it is that same intentionality that, no matter what we're doing, we're going to spend a little time together every day.
And if you have a hard time figuring out what are those things that you enjoy doing together, we have something that we put together called Enjoy the Journey. And in this, it walks you through this process. And just one part of Enjoy the Journey, because it helps you do these things for your entire family and for yourself. But one section is that marriage part where you're finding these common interests that you have. He just makes a list of all his, you make a list of all yours. And then you in that process are seeing okay, we both love doing this. How can we do this every day? And so that way, when you wake up in the morning, you're looking forward to the life that you have. You actually enjoy this blended family that you have because you are doing things that bring joy to your life.
Yeah, we're so excited about Enjoy the Journey because it does. And it doesn't just, there's so much into it, but it's actually a fun part. It's a date that you're having with your spouse, but we walk you through how to do the front part of it. And then at the end, you're coming up with a good game plan to make it happen, right? That can be the biggest challenge. So yeah, that is, and it is, it's being able to spend that quality time figuring out things that you like doing together and do more of that, have fun.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is not just the daily, but, it's got to be a weekly thing. We always challenge couples to date every week. And why should dating stop after you get married? It shouldn't. We should continue dating our spouse if you want to have a healthy marriage. And we always say shoot for once a week. You may not make it that week. It might be a super busy week. We know, we get it, but that's always what you're aiming for. That way you will date more than you would have if you didn't put that on the calendar and say, this is what we're doing. And the more you do, it doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be expensive. But we say take at least 30 minutes out of your week and do something you wouldn't normally do. Go grab an ice cream. Go to the park.
Well, and that's what our Fun Fridays are chocked full. Every Fun Friday episode is something you can do, and it's stuff that we tell you you can do it with your family, but it's also stuff you can do as a couple. And sometimes they're more specific, but pretty much all the ideas we share on Fun Fridays could be done on a date.
Yeah, so it is. It's either doing a thing that might cost some money or doing free things, whatever your budget will allow you to do. But you're taking 30 minutes out at least every week to date your spouse. That way you continue falling in love with each other and reminding yourself why y'all are married. And that's just such a healthy way.
And then that day becomes your favorite day of the week.
It does. You're looking forward to that. So, that really is fun. And then the last thing on quality time is getaways. You got to have a couple getaway. Like just being intentional at least one time a year that you and your spouse are getting away, even if it's for a short weekend, maybe if it's just for one day, one night, get away, a stay somewhere that's relatively close. Maybe you're having a family member watch the kids, or you're doing something to where you're being intentional and you are getting away and going and doing something together.
Yeah, I agree. And we can usually tell, like, oh my gosh, it is time. We need to plan something to get away. So
yeah, we actually enjoy doing long trips. Like, we love doing things with the family. We'll do a family vacay, but then we'll do just our vacay where we can get away. We'd normally try to plan it on our anniversary. We've been really intentional about our anniversary doing something, even if it's a staycation and we kick the kids out of the house. It's like, sorry, y'all go pitch a tent outside or something, but you're not welcome in the house anymore for this weekend. No, I'm just kidding. We don't do that.
But that was advice given to us, I think, on our second anniversary when I was talking with the lady. We were at a vineyard and she was divorced, and she was like, what y'all are doing is awesome. Don't ever stop. And like, you could just see just the sadness, but also just how important it was in her eyes when she was telling us this, of like regret in her voice. Yeah. And so we took that to heart, and we're like, okay, yeah, we're going to keep doing this.
Yeah. So it really is, you got to be able to get away and do things, whether it's cheap or whether it's expensive. And we've had some years to where it's been something that we're like, I don't think we can do anything. Let's try to figure something out. And we get really creative, something that we can do with no money. And then we've had a few years that, we've been able to go big, our 10-year anniversary, we went to Hawaii. We didn't think we'd be able to do it, but we did. And man, it was just life-changing. It's something that we'll remember forever. And so good stuff. So that's number 2 is quality time. So you got to have daily time together. You got to have at least once a week time, and then you got to have those getaways. So now the last one is prayer.
Yes, and we're not going to go into all the detail what that looks like. We have episode 65 goes into like how to pray together as a couple, but prayer is so vital to help your blended family. Your own personal prayer, first off, to where when we talk about compromise and we talk about having healthy communication, that all comes for us, like it stems from our quiet time where we're talking to God and He's able to speak to us and soften our hearts on things before we bring it to our spouse. So that alone time prayer is so important.
Yeah, we always say that as a couple, we're two, but God is the glue. God is what fills in all the gaps and keeps us together, and that makes us one. So it really is. That's a good way to start keeping God in the center of your marriage, is being able to pray together, and it is very intimate. We were after we did that podcast episode, we had a couple that had kind of reached out and said we'd never prayed together, but we started to. We did it, and both me and my husband were in tears. And hearing that, it's like we know that's how amazing this is, because it really connects you and your spouse on a whole nother level and is powerful. We didn't get that till later in our marriage, and once we did, it's like, man, not only that does it help your marriage, but it helps your family. Now you're seeing just the miracles in your family. And it really is. It's amazing. So being able to pray together as a couple, and if you need like step by step or you need ideas on how to make that work, because it can be awkward at first, then yeah, go listen to episode 65, How to Pray as a Couple, because we really spell out a lot of tools, tips, tricks on how to make it a thing that we've learned by trial and error, but that have just really helped. So, but it's that, and last kind of on prayers, you're seeking God's counsel, the creator of the universe, who, I can go back to Job, to where, Job was like, I don't understand all this. And then God's like, where were you whenever I created this? Where were you when I did this? Do you know where the wind comes from, Job? And it's like, oh my goodness. So it's like, we don't know everything, but when we go to the one who does, man, it's just really, you're seeking his wisdom together as a couple, and it's powerful.
Yeah, and we're in a blended family. There is so much out of your control, and that's what we're always speaking on that. If there's things that you can change in your family, change them, make them better. Yeah. But there's so much that's out of your control in your blended family when it comes to your kids, that using this source, using God to just help guide you on what to do next. Or we believe that what the enemy comes in and tries to destroy your family, that God uses that for good. But when we're not in union with him, and we're not coming together, and we're not asking, we're not talking to him, it's hard for us to hear his voice and to get those things stirring in the supernatural. And that's the thing too. There's the things that are happening here in the natural that we see, and there's a whole nother world of supernatural where the enemy is fighting against you. He wants to destroy your family. He hates the family unit. And so it takes prayer to activate the things in the supernatural to take place.
It is. There's so much goodness that comes from that, and it really defeats the enemy. The enemy can have no hold over your family when you start coming in prayer and declaring that, you're declaring God's word, and you're God's child. He's taking care of you. Yeah. So there's nothing the enemy can do to you. So yeah, it is great stuff. So man, if you want a healthy marriage in your blended family, work in these 3 areas, take these tips, these tricks, and really start just focusing on these 3, and you will see your marriage just coming together and growing closer, and you'll see the power in your family whenever that happens. Your kids actually benefit from you having a healthy marriage. So it's well worth putting in the time and the effort to make sure you and your spouse are on the same page and doing these things and keeping your marriage strong, alive, and on fire for each other. So Amen. Good stuff. So there it is. Y'all go have a healthy marriage. We just know that your marriage is going to be blessed. Your marriage isn't just going to be blessed. It is blessed in the name of Jesus. Come on. Amen. Loving it. So listen, we love you guys. Y'all go have some healthy communication, have some good quality time, and y'all go pray. Love you guys. We'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for joining us today for another episode of Enjoying Your Blended Family. All the links we've talked about today, they're in the show notes below. If you've enjoyed listening, be sure to subscribe below. It's free, and it lets you know when we have another episode for you to listen to.
And if you want to help us out, leave us a rating and review so that we can keep reaching more people. Until next time, remember to enjoy the moment.